Hello and welcome to another Overlord lore video, and today we are taking a closer look at one of the most iconic and underrated fantasy species in general, the good old Ogre, and how specifically they are defined and, for lack of a better term, working in Overlord, as in possessing a couple of traits that make them fit in very well with the general setting. But before we are going to do so, I say thank you very much to my Patreons for supporting this channel, as well as all users of the YouTube thanks function who made one-time donations. Now with that said, let's dive into the thing the Ogres of Overlord share with the Ogres from other fantasy universes first, namely that they have, first and foremost, a comparably low intelligence. Now don't get me wrong. Compared to the dolphin or a house cat, they are very smart, and far more special than the latter, especially if you want to keep them like a house cat. But still, they are not as smart as a human, as they have evolved to rely more on their brute strength. The Ogres in Overlord have that in common with the Ogres from the mountains of Morn, and they stand between 8 to 10 feet tall, but in contrast to their more well-fed but ever-hungry relatives, they are leaner and far more muscular than the Ogres from classic fantasy. They look closer to a shaved gorilla than anything resembling the more space-consuming Ogres from Warhammer. Which brings us to yet another thing that these Ogres of Overlord share with the other fantasy Ogres. They are man-eaters, and they are feared by humans for good reason, since if they can, they will absolutely devour anyone they can get their hands on. But this leads us also to one of the greatest distinction that these Ogres have compared to those of, let's say, Lord of the Rings. They are not evil by nature. They are not burned in sunlight or such other things. They are just simply existing. They are another humanoid species, or demi-humans as they are defined in Overlord, and they are feeding on humans who live in family units in easy to identify locations, aka a house or a village, because it's just so much easier to find them and to get them than chasing an agile rabbit through the dense forest, only for it to disappear after a few meters of chasing it into the green or into its hard to identify burrow. Humans, while they are a fair bit stronger than the average rabbit, are still weak compared to an ogre, but far more nutritious than a rabbit, and by far easier to catch. Ogres don't hunt humans because ogres are evil. They do it just because they are hungry, and for the same reason. And they share that again with the Ogres of Morn, or even the orcs. They tend to eat nearby goblins if food grew particularly scarce, but on the other hand, they can be reasoned with and even integrated into the wider society if the opportunity presents itself. Henry, for example, not only found out that the Ogres make, unsurprisingly, pretty good soldiers, since not only tend they to be slightly bigger than the average human infantryman, but they are also incredibly loyal to those, in the village of Karn, who provide them with an ample supply of food. In other words, the Ogres have evolved to leverage their strength to get food, but instead of fighting every time in order to eat, again whatever the Ogre is attacking, being fed directly and plentifully, while only to be expected to defend those who have fed you for months without doing basically anything other than standing at the village entrance and looking menacing, is such a good deal that the Ogres are willing to fight to their deaths in order to defend it. And that's not all. Being as big and as strong as the Ogres are, they can, especially in a largely feudal society, become incredibly handy, because again, pretty much everything is produced by manual labor. Not only would weaker predators like wolves, for example, think twice before attacking the villagers laboring on the fields, if a 10 feet high, 7 feet wide, mass of pure muscles are also working with them, but also the fact that they use entire tree trunks as clubs make them also pretty good laborers in general. Building a barn or a farm should be comparably easy and very quick when ogres assist you. Now with that said, there are also a few subspecies of ogres that are worthy of notice. While the first might not, strictly speaking, be just a subspecies, but maybe another ordinary ogre with heightened intelligence and a keen interest in magic, the ogre sorcerer can wield magic just like a human magic caster, while still possessing the by comparison high strength and tough skin of an ogre. And they frequently rise to the position of tribe leader in their respective tribes, to the point that Swords of Darkness have once fought an ogre sorcerer, and that Prince Barbaro's force, while laying siege to Khan, suspected that such an ogre sorcerer was the mastermind behind all of this. And of course underestimating Einsulgon, who was the true mastermind behind all of this so much, Barbaro deserved everything Lupus Regina did to him. But with that said, because the ogres are so strong and so tough, even ogre sorcerers would be very hard to topple and to put on their back, especially compared to other sorcerers. Next in line, we have the Puriuns, and they are either a subspecies of ogres or a ogre-like species that evolved a natural affinity and dominion over Earth and can form and manipulate it, as well as using Earth-related abilities in combat. And the Vauns can do the same, albeit with water, and Nea Baraya and Shizu Delta fought one particular tough one, and they also found out that these Vauns, while literally being able to turn themselves into water droplets in order to avoid enemy ranged attacks, that there's a limit of 7 times that they can use these abilities in a given time span. A limit that Shizu Delta with her spell gun on auto fire not only exceeded, but utterly demolished. So ogres in the world of Overlord are far more than just the brutish, naturally evil beings that they are in so many other anime and fantasy universes, with some very interesting twists and subspecies, as well as a fairly realistic outlook on how such a gigantic humanoid ball of muscles would actually function and behave, what their views on the world are, and what they do, or rather can do for a living. And with that said, I say thank you very much for watching, and special thanks to Bad Guy Yi, Ben C, Chrissy, Crowley0221, Sia, Death is Mercy, Deathless Dragonlord, Dystopia, Dystopia II, Feral Shivan, Guy with That Head, Hector Marino, Hoss, Huster, Jacob G, Jana B, Jason, Chromius, Legendarius, Lelouch Britannia with a Mustache, Lexus Fox, Lord Nishikian Rai, Lord Touch Me, Merovec, Mr. Shoes, Mr. Tweaker, Michael R, Michael Y, Oker, Overlord General Gasper, Paddy Pantom, Personage, Primus 11, Shadow Lightning Wolf, Shrine Keeper, Texas Deer, Ted, the Orc Warboss, Rock Ed Smasher, T.E. Wang, Vash Hawkeye, Vegito 27, Venture Fanatic, Wilhelm, and Zonegon. Thanks guys. Anyway, have a nice day, and I hope to see you all again soon on my next video.